The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices.
They're mine. They're not yours. You had no right to them when you were alive, and you have no right to them when you're dead. You say who? That's what it sounded like. Good, so you know who I am. And you know I'm not playing. You're going to let those women go. In Jesus' name, you're going to let those women go.
Is there a demon here watching us right now? Watching us right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
And good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good night.
Tonight's episode is going to be different from anything we've really ever done. But it's very, very, very important. As you know, we are both paranormal investigators. We both have teams, and we work a lot of cases. We work a lot of residential cases, and in my case here on the East Coast, I work a lot of demonic cases. We partner with the church, and we go in and we help families that are being attacked by demonic entities, and we do exorcisms and cast out the demons and all those kind of things. A very important part of every single investigation is the interview process, and that's where you kind of figure out what's going on in the case. And then you do your investigation to confirm what you already suspect in the interview, or it sometimes leads you in a completely different direction. But you learn a whole lot from the interview process. The point of that is to try to determine what is actually going on at the house. It could be something demonic. It could be a malevolent entity of some sort. It could be drug use, or it could just be mental illness. And not enough teams have the knowledge or the experience to properly handle a real residential case. A lot of them have seen like Ghost Adventures or something like that, and they want to be ghost hunters, so they go out and they start doing it. Now, if you're just going to a haunted location, then the only people you're really hurting is yourself. But if you are working residential cases, that family is relying on you to help them find answers and to save them, essentially, because they're going through it. And if you don't have all the knowledge and everything at your disposal to be able to draw from, then you're doing them a grave disservice. So in that vein, this is the first episode of a series that I would like to do on different mental illnesses and how they apply to the paranormal field, especially residential cases. A lot of these mental illnesses can mimic demonic activity. So a lot of times somebody could be suffering from one of these and they could interpret it as something is attacking the family, demonic or malevolent entities are attacking the family, when in some cases it's simply mental illness. The first one we're going to do tonight is borderline personality disorder. And in the future, we'll do schizophrenia, bipolar, multiple personality disorders, all those. But I'd like to start with borderline personality disorder because this is one that is able to mimic demonic attachment and demonic possession very, very well. A lot of times when people don't understand borderline personality disorder, they think that those people are dangerous, that they're monsters. I like to say at the very beginning of this show that people suffering from borderline personality disorder are not monsters. Take it from me, I know. I've got 30 years experience in dealing with borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder. I have about the same amount of time dealing with schizophrenia as well. I do not suffer from any of these disorders. My wife actually has bipolar disorder and she has borderline personality disorder. And over the years, I have learned a great deal through research and through talking to different therapists and psychiatrists and trying to help her along her journey. I have learned a lot about borderline personality disorder. So what I want to do tonight is I want to go through the 9 some people call them symptoms. I would say characteristics of borderline personality disorder and how they apply to their behaviors. I think this will give you a valuable insight into the disorder and to help you to determine whether somebody that you are interviewing for a case is actually suffering from borderline or if there might be something else going on. So without further ado, we're going to get right to the characteristics. Okay, so here are the 9 symptoms of borderline personality disorder. Now these you can use, as I said, to diagnose and figure out whether the person that you are doing the interview with has borderline personality disorder. Number 1 is a fear of abandonment. People with BPD are often terrified of being abandoned or left alone. Even something as innocuous as a loved one arriving home late from work or going away for the weekend may trigger intense fear. This can prompt frantic efforts to keep the other person close. You may beg, cling, start fights, track your loved one's movements, or even physically block the person from leaving. Unfortunately, this behavior tends to have the opposite effect, driving others away. And I can tell you from personal experience, this one is very, very pronounced and noticeable. I know there were times when I had to run to the store or something like that, and my wife would literally stand in front of the door because she didn't want me to go. So it manifests itself in many, many different ways. It's not just blocking the door. It could be everything from just making excuses why they don't want you to go somewhere to threatening to do things to themselves if you go somewhere, all the way to actually blocking you physically from leaving. Number 2 is unstable relationships. People with BPD tend to have relationships that are intense and short-lived. You may fall in love quickly, believing that each new person is the one who will make you feel whole, only to be quickly disappointed. Your relationships either seem perfect or horrible, without any middle ground. Your lovers, friends, or family members may feel like they have emotional whiplash as a result of your rapid swings from idealization to devaluation, anger, and hate. Now this one, the way it's worded, it tends to make you just think of a relationship like with another person, like a love type relationship. But this also manifests itself in friendships. Because people with BPD, when they make a new friend, that person will be like their soulmate. It'll be the greatest person they've ever met. And everything in the entire world revolves around that person for a short amount of time. Now, as you can imagine, that weight is way too much for any normal human being to shoulder. And the pedestal that they put you on, you have no way of staying on that pedestal. So it's only a matter of time before something happens to where you don't react the way they want you to react, or you don't live up to this idealized version of yourself that they have created. And then you are no longer the center of the universe. The fall from that pedestal is swift and it is brutal. They can go from loving you and thinking that the sun rises and sets on you to thinking that you are the devil himself and the worst person on earth. And most times when you've crossed that line, it's almost impossible to get back to the other side of it. So that's why a lot of times people will have very short relationships when they have BPD, both romantic relationships and just friendships, because it takes a very patient and kind and loving and well, I'll just say it, a special person, a rather selfless person, to be able to understand and tolerate that kind of behavior, you know? So a lot of times they will have short and unstable relationships and very, very passionate relationships as well, whether they're romantic or just friendships. People with borderline personality disorder put their entire being into their relationships. I heard it described one time that that somebody who had borderline personality disorder, they were asked what their definition of love was. And they literally said that they're with the person 24 hours a day, that if they could, they would literally crawl inside their skin with them, like Luke Skywalker trying to survive the cold. You know what I mean? So that tells you the amount and the intensity of those feelings and that concentration that they have on relationships. So that's number 2, unstable relationships. Number 3 is unclear or shifting self-image. When you have BPD, your sense of self is typically unstable. Sometimes you may feel good about yourself, but other times you hate yourself, or even view yourself as evil. You probably don't have a clear idea of who you are or what you want in life. As a result, you may frequently change jobs, friends, lovers, religion, values, goals, or even sexual identity. Now this one, it doesn't quite go deep enough, the description that they give of it. Because a person with BPD is not only confused about who they are. Most times they are almost like a chameleon, where they will kind of change their selves to fit in with whatever relationship that they are in at the time, whether it's a romantic relationship or whether it's just a group of friends. So if they make a group of friends that are all into soccer, but they can't stand soccer, they just hate it, all of a sudden they will be the biggest soccer fan on the planet. Everything in the world will be about soccer, because that's what the group of friends that they want to be part of is interested in. So they will literally mold themselves to fit in to whatever your interests are. So if you're somebody who loves the outdoors, loves fishing and hunting and hiking, and maybe the person with borderline personality disorder hates the outdoors. They don't like bugs. They don't like the sun. They'd rather be sitting inside in the air conditioner watching movies. But they become interested in you. And as we covered in the last step, they believe that the entire world revolves around you at that moment. They put their all into it, and they're so desperate to make that relationship work that they will literally mold themselves into being an outdoor person that loves hunting, fishing, and hiking. And they will go along and do all that stuff with you. And you'll think, oh, this is the greatest thing on earth, man. This woman loves everything I love. When in reality, she might actually hate everything that you love. But the borderline personality disorder is causing her to mold herself to fit into your outlook of life, of the things that you enjoy and the things you want. Now, keep in mind, unstable relationships that we covered before. So that means that all of that is well and good until you piss her off or piss him off. It doesn't have to be a woman. I mean, men and women both have this disorder. So once you piss the person off, then all of a sudden they don't want to hang out with you no more. And then you go from being the greatest person who ever lived to the worst person who ever lived. And they don't want to go with you. Now, they will go back and forth on that. You know, they might say, okay, I'm not going with you because you pissed me off and I just hate you. You're the worst person ever. I can't believe I ever even wanted to talk to you. And then an hour or two later, they've calmed down, and then all of a sudden the world revolves around you again. And then they're sorry for what they did, and they go overboard trying to apologize. It's a yo-yo kind of thing. But that is number 3, unclear or shifting self-image. Number 4 is impulsive, self-destructive behaviors. If you have BPD, you may engage in harmful, sensation-seeking behaviors, especially when you're upset. You may impulsively spend money you can't afford, binge eat, drive recklessly, shoplift, engage in risky sex, or overdo it with drugs or alcohol. These risky behaviors may help you feel better in the moment, but they hurt you and those around you over the long term. Now this one, the impulsive and self-destructive behaviors, covers a lot of different things. And a lot of those things are ways of honestly self-medicating for these people. So they will engage in binge eating because it makes them feel good to eat yummy stuff. You know, it kind of soothes the soul, makes them feel better about themselves until after they do it. And then they have that spiral of depression for overeating and getting fat and all that. They may engage in risky sex because, once again, it feels good in the moment, but then they're left feeling hollow and empty at the end of it. Drugs and alcohol is a huge one with people with borderline personality disorder, because it is a way for them to be able to cope with the intensity of feelings that they're having all the time. Because remember, people with borderline personality disorder usually have been through some severe trauma in their lives as well. So not only do they have borderline personality disorder, most times they have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of times that'll go hand in hand also with bipolar disorder, goes with this, where a lot of people with borderline will also have bipolar. They will have some sort of eating disorder usually, whether it is anorexia or usually it's bulimia, because they love to binge and then they feel guilty and they need to purge. And almost always they have an unhealthy relationship with drugs or alcohol as well. This can be unhealthy and it can be healthy as well in a way. And I'll explain that. So please don't think I'm saying using drugs is okay, because it's not. But some states where medical marijuana is legal, medical marijuana is used as a way to treat borderline personality disorder. And a lot of the people that suffer from this say that marijuana helps them immensely. I know in my own case with my wife, marijuana helps her a great deal to be able to kind of mellow out and to manage her emotions and manage the disorder. So technically, marijuana would be considered a drug. But I think marijuana used properly is very beneficial for people with borderline personality disorder. I mean, always consult your physician, always get with your therapist and all that kind of stuff. But in our case, speaking from personal experience, I have seen marijuana work wonders with people that have this disorder and other mental and physical disorders, really. I mean, it's kind of a miracle drug that has been given a very bad rap by a lot of people. And I think that's sad, because they'd rather pump you full of pharmaceutical drugs. And I mean, let's face it and let's be honest about this. Pharmaceutical drugs, especially the mental medications, have horrendous side effects. And once you're on them for a while, they stop being effective. And you have to either increase the dose or you have to switch drugs. Now, both of those come with severe risks. Increasing the dose often causes different interactions with other medications you're on that weren't present at a lower dose. So you'll start developing all kinds of other problems sometimes from those. On a lot of these mental medications, especially the ones used for depression, one of the side effects is actually suicidal behavior, which is kind of insane if you think about it. It kind of completely goes against the whole reason why you're taking it in the first place. The reason you're taking it is because you're depressed and you don't want to kill yourself. And then the drug itself is making you have suicidal thoughts and tendencies. So a lot of these medicines have bad side effects, and a lot of them are very dangerous to get off of. You have to wean yourself off of them, because there can be really bad effects that take place if you just go cold turkey on these drugs. I know my wife has been on some that have made her raise her hands in the air and just hold them up like she's at a concert. There was some that made her start cutting herself and doing self-harm stuff. And she had never had a history of that before. And then once she got on the medication, that began. And as soon as she got off the medication, it stopped. So you have to be really, really, really careful when you're talking about pharmaceutical mental medications. And honestly, I mean, there are some out there for borderline personality disorder, but I don't think they're really all that necessary, unless you have other conditions that go along with it. Borderline personality disorder is something that can be treated. You can live with this. You can get better. You can have a normal or a very close to normal life. You accomplish that through therapy. You accomplish that through a lot of different treatment that does not include pharmaceuticals. So there are ways that you can learn how to manage your behavior and have a relatively normal life. So you don't have to be doped up your whole life. But that's number 4, impulsive, self-destructive behaviors. Number 5, which we kind of talked about a little bit in number 4, but we'll go ahead and hit this one as well, is self-harm or suicidal behavior. Suicidal behavior and deliberate self-harm is common in people with BPD. Suicidal behavior includes thinking about suicide, making suicidal gestures or threats, or actually carrying out a suicide attempt. Self-harm encompasses all other attempts to hurt yourself without suicidal intent. Common forms of self-harm include cutting and burning. So this one is an interesting one because in a lot of illnesses, the suicidal behavior is not part of the original disorder. It's not like a symptom of the disorder as much as it is a reaction to having the disorder. Because having the disorder, you feel like there's no hope, like you'll never be better. I mean, you're driving everybody who loves you away. You don't feel good about yourself. You don't know who the hell you are. You think you'll never have anybody to love that's going to stay with you because they can't tolerate your nonsense of screaming and hollering and acting stupid all the time, and you just feel hopeless and there's no way out. So you try to go the normal route of seeing a psychiatrist, but normal psychiatrists don't specialize in borderline personality disorder. You need somebody that can do the cognitive behavioral therapy and those kind of things. So you don't benefit that much from going to a normal psychiatrist, a normal counselor. You try mental medications, they just mess you up even worse. So you have this feeling like there is no hope, and you just get severely depressed. And a lot of people turn to either harming themselves or just wanting to off themselves in those situations. Now, the good news for any of you that may be suffering from borderline personality disorder is it's not hopeless. There are therapies out there that can help you, like CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy. It helps. You can learn how to live with this. It's just about finding the right resources and finding the right people that can help you. I've been dealing with this for about 30 years now with my wife, and she has gotten much better than she was in the beginning. It is doable, and you can find somebody that will love you and be there for you and can understand what you're going through and help you. And you can have a long, loving marriage. We have one. The secret is that person has to be willing to research and be willing to learn about borderline personality disorder and what it means and how that person is affected by the things that you do. Because a lot of times people with borderline personality disorder are set off by things that we feel as normal functioning adults are normal. It's not a big deal at all. But to somebody with borderline personality disorder, it might be the end of the world. That little thing that you're doing that doesn't seem like much of a big deal might be the end of the world. Because say you just want to go down to the store and pick up some stuff because you need some stuff, and I got to go get shampoo, I got to go get razors, whatever. And so, all right, I'm going to the store and I'll be back. And then your spouse who has borderline personality disorder feels like you're abandoning them and leaving them behind. Because say they're in the shower or something and they're like, well, wait for me and I'll go with you. And you're like, well, I got other stuff to do today. I don't want to wait for you. It'll take me 5-10 minutes to get down there and back. Why do I got to wait? But what you're saying is, I'm just going to do this real quick and I'll be right back. What they're hearing is, I don't want you to go with me. I don't need you with me. I don't want you with me. You stay here. I can get it done better without you. That's what they're hearing, even though that's not what you're saying. So a good little trick that we have learned in our life is when there is that kind of a misunderstanding going on, where you say something that should be no big deal. Like, I'm just going to run to the store real quick. No need to take you with me. I'll be right back. And then they react that way in a rage-filled or violent way, or upset or hurt or, whatever, in a way that's not normal as how they're reacting. You need to stop and you need to say, okay, what are you hearing? This is what I said. What are you hearing? And then they tell you what they are hearing you say. And then you can say, oh, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying I don't want you with me. I'm just saying I can run there and be back before you're even out of the shower. So let me take care of this stupid errand and then I'm all yours. It's about communication and understanding, because they're not processing that information the same way you would process that information. And that goes back to what I was saying of being able to do your research and learn about the disorder and learn how the people that have the disorder react to everyday situations in a different way than you react. So that's number 5, self-harm. Number 6 is extreme emotional swings. Unstable emotions and moods are common with BPD. One moment you may feel happy and the next despondent. Little things that other people brush off can send you into an emotional tailspin. These mood swings are intense, but they tend to pass fairly quickly, unlike the emotional swings of depression or bipolar disorder, usually lasting just a few minutes or hours. And this one is interesting as well, because once you have spent time with somebody with borderline personality disorder, you will be able to see a lot of these things coming. And the emotional mood swings are quick. They come on fast and you have no warning. One minute they could be super happy and just giggly and having a good old time. The next they are just pissed and screaming and hollering and just having a damn fit. And then a couple minutes later they might be fine again, like nothing ever happened. And you're still sitting over there butthurt because they said some horrible stuff to you. And you're mad now. But they're good again. And they're just, oh, hi, honey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Like nothing ever happened. That is an interesting predicament to be in, because as the spouse, you want to be supportive. And as somebody that understands the disorder, that no matter what they're saying when they're pissed off at you, they don't mean that stuff. It's a lot of times they just say hurtful things just to hurt you because they feel like you're going to do it to them first. You're going to leave them. So they're just trying to protect themselves. So when they're okay again, part of you still wants to have that fight because, damn it, they said something that made you mad, and that's not cool, and you need to let them know. But in those cases, the best thing to do is not to get angry again, because that's just going to set them off on another spiral of rage. The best thing to do is sit down and calmly discuss it with them. And you'll get to a point, if you've been with somebody long enough, that you've kind of heard all the crap already. So once they go into one of their tirades and start in on you, you've already heard it. So you know what's coming. You know what they're going to say. You know that they don't mean it, because you've already had that conversation as well afterwards, multiple times, where they say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I was just saying it to make you mad because I thought you were trying to hurt me, so I was going to hurt you, So you already have all that information. So you're able to just kind of brush it off and not even pay any damn attention to it. And you just keep on moving on with your life. But the important thing, once again, is honesty and communication. You have to be able to let that person know how you feel and what they're doing. And they have to be mature enough to be able to listen to that and take in that information without going all nuts again and screaming and hollering and acting crazy. And a lot of this depends on the person that has the borderline personality disorder wanting to get better. Because the most important thing you can do if you have borderline personality disorder is to fight the disease. Not the person who's helping you, the disease. You have got to get angry at the disease. Turn all that rage and all that anger that you feel towards the disorder. And be determined that you're going to conquer this, because you can. You can beat it and you can have a normal life. But that's number 6, extreme emotional swings. Number 7 is chronic feelings of emptiness. People with BPD often talk about feeling empty, as if there's a hole or a void inside them. At the extreme, you may feel as if you're nothing or nobody. This feeling is uncomfortable, so you may try to fill the void with things like drugs, food, or sex, but nothing feels truly satisfying. This one is, I've often described this as just a giant gaping hole inside the person, where they feel like something is missing, and they're desperately shoving things into that hole, trying to fill it. They do it with relationships, they do it with sex, they do it with drugs, they do it with food. Anything that makes them feel good in any way, they will consume as much of that as they possibly can and try to cram that hole filled. But the problem is the hole never gets filled. So they always feel hollow and empty. And that leads to depression, because they feel hopeless. They feel like they can never feel normal, and they can never fill that hole. This is also something that can be addressed with treatment and with therapy, and you can learn how to manage this and learn how to healthily fix this problem. Some people turn to religion, and they find that filling of that hole inside them with God. Other people do it with drugs. Other people do it with sex, with food, all kinds of different things. But you have to do it in a healthy way. You have to learn that you are enough for you. You are good enough. Because a lot of times people with borderline personality disorder, they feel like they're not. They feel like they're garbage and that nobody could ever love them. And that is not true. That is a lie that you're telling yourself. So that hole can be filled. You can be normal again. But that's number 7, chronic feelings of emptiness. Number 8 is explosive anger. If you have BPD, you may struggle with intense anger and a short temper. You may also have trouble controlling yourself once the fuse is lit. Yelling, throwing things, or becoming completely consumed by rage. It's important to note that this anger isn't always directed outwards. You may spend a lot of time feeling angry at yourself. Now, in my experience, this one is a combination of both. Almost always you have that rage that is pointed outwards, to where you're basically like a toddler throwing a tantrum. You're yelling, screaming, throwing things across the room, threatening, fighting with people, that kind of thing. But there's also that inward strife and struggle that's going on as well, during and especially after the initial outburst, to where you are hating yourself for acting the way you've acted. And then you start getting depressed because you're driving people away from you. So your whole goal is trying to keep everybody close because you feel like they're going to abandon you and you're afraid of that. But your behavior is driving them away because they don't want to be around you because you're nuts. You're screaming and hollering, acting crazy. And that's not pleasant. So you start hating yourself for the way you're behaving, but you can't control the way you're behaving. And hating yourself is just causing more internal pressure and more internal anger and rage and depression and all of it that just boils over again and again and again. It's a vicious cycle. That's one of those things where you have to be able to stop and take a breath. And that's very hard to do for a person with borderline personality disorder. But if you have a partner that you trust, that you have discussed this with over and over again, then there will come a point to where you start blowing your stack and your partner will remain calm and can say, hey, listen, you're having an episode right now. Your borderline personality disorder is flaring up here. You're kind of going nuts. You're screaming and hollering and making an ass out of yourself. Just calm down. It's going to be okay. Walk over, give them a hug. I love you. It's going to be okay. Now that, for people that live through this, who don't have borderline personality disorder, but are the spouse of somebody who has it, they might be thinking, yeah, buddy, you're crazy. I'm not getting anywhere near that woman. She's going to clock me with something if I go over there. Maybe at first, but like I said, communication is very important. And once you have decided together that you're going to work on this and you're going to beat this thing, there will come a point where you can be that person that can calm them down. And they will feel safe in your arms and they can trust you that you're not going to hurt them and that you're there to help. And believe it or not, you can learn how to rein that in and to control that. But that's number 8, explosive anger. Number 9, and the final one, is feeling suspicious or out of touch with reality. People with BPD often struggle with paranoia or suspicious thoughts about others' motives. When under stress, you may even lose touch with reality, an experience known as dissociation. You may feel foggy, spaced out, or as if you're outside your own body. Now, this one is kind of deceptively worded because the last line, you may feel foggy, spaced out, or as if you're outside your own body, makes you feel like it's some sort of other weird mental disorder to where you're not in control of yourself. You're just sitting back outside your body, watching your body do this thing. But that's not really what this one means. This one, you should focus more on the paranoia and the suspicious thoughts. Like I mentioned earlier, there's that massive fear of abandonment. So people with borderline personality disorder feel like everybody's going to leave them. And they don't want that to happen. So they're constantly paranoid and suspicious of everybody, that they're going to leave at any moment, that they're just trying to find a way out, that they don't love them, that they don't care enough, that they're going to hurt them in some way. There's a lot of that with borderline personality disorder. So on this one, don't concentrate as much on the end of it, because that makes it feel like a metaphysical thing where you're completely out of your body and you're floating above yourself and all that. That's not what they're talking about here. This is just like, I would concentrate more on the paranoia and the suspicious thoughts part of it, because that is what I have experienced with my wife. Is there's a lot of that. She's never had situations where she doesn't feel like she's in her own body or anything like that. But she has a lot of paranoia or suspicious thoughts. Like, you might go down to the store. Let's use the example we used earlier. You got to run down and you got to get razors, or you got to get shampoo, or whatever it is. And she will convince herself that the reason why you don't want her to go with her to the store is because you're going there to see somebody and you're hooking up with a girl there or something. And that's why you don't want her to go, because then she'll catch you cheating and all this kind. So it's a lot of paranoia and suspicious thoughts, because you're only gone for 5 or 10 minutes to go to the store and come back. You haven't even showered, so you stink. There's no way any chick's hooking up with you. You know, it's ridiculous. But in her mind, it's true, especially if the person that you're talking about here that has borderline personality disorder also engages in a lot of sexual promiscuity and stuff like that, because a lot of times they'll be unfaithful. So then they feel like you're going to be unfaithful to get back at them. You see what I'm saying? And that fuels the paranoia and the suspicious thoughts. So I would concentrate on that part of this one and not the outside of your own body section. I don't really know if that is something that people will actually experience. I have never met anybody that has. And like I said, I've got 30 years experience in this, and I've never run across that. But almost every case I've ran across the paranoia and the suspicious thoughts. So this is kind of a little test that you can incorporate into your interview portion of your investigation. You can say things like, have you ever had feelings of paranoia or suspicious thoughts about people? Have you ever had desires to harm yourself or to harm anybody else? Those kind of things. Turn these into kind of questions that you can ask in your interview process. Now, you don't need to do this in every single interview you do. If you notice that the person is kind of out of control, has anger issues, and has feelings of depression and like they're not worth anything and all those kind of things, you'll pick up on all that in the interview process. Okay, so as you can see, a lot of these behaviors that people with borderline suffer from can mimic demonic attachment or demonic behavior. You know, a lot of times you'll see somebody going through a fit of rage and going off like that, and you might think, oh my God, what's wrong with this person? A normal person wouldn't act that way. So there must be something attacking this family. With a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of training, a little bit of insight, and a well-done interview process, you can kind of determine what's going on. Now, when you take these characteristics, you just kind of make them into questions. Like I said, you know, you can take like the one about paranoia and all that and say, have you ever experienced these thoughts? Have you ever felt like this? Is this something you've noticed? Kind of make them into questions and kind of lead to people. And you only want to really do this if you have a suspicion that there's some sort of mental illness going on in the first place. A lot of people that have borderline don't realize that they have borderline personality disorder. So they're not going to be quick to really tell you right off the bat, yeah, I have this, because a lot of times it's undiagnosed. But like I said in the beginning, these people are not monsters. They're just people. They deserve our empathy, our compassion, our love. You know, they're people that have suffered great trauma in their life, and they really need help. And you can convey that message that it's not hopeless, that they can get better, and you can point them in the right direction to get the help that they need. And anybody that's watching this that might have borderline personality disorder, it's not hopeless. You can have that person that loves you and spends the rest of their life with you. I've been married 18 years. I love my wife with all my heart. I'd die for her. She suffers. She has all 9 of these characteristics. She suffers greatly from borderline personality disorder, but through working together and learning, things have gotten a lot better. And she's way better than she was when we started. So it's not hopeless, and you can get through it. You just have to want to get help, and you have to seek out the people that can actually help you. A normal psychiatrist can usually point you in the right direction, but they're not going to be the ones doing the cognitive behavioral therapy and specializing in borderline personality disorder. You're going to need to go to somebody who knows what they're doing with that. But through therapy and through working the different steps of like cognitive behavioral therapy and everything like that, you can pretty much conquer this disease. It doesn't have to define you. And I know suicidal thoughts goes along with this a lot. And I would just say to everyone watching, if you're feeling that way, just keep in mind that you are loved. And there will be people that will miss you. There will be people that will absolutely be destroyed if you're not there. You matter way more than you think you do. Don't let that disease lie to you and tell you you're worthless, because you're not. You were specially made. By an almighty God, the creator of the entire universe, made you perfect the way you are. You just have to learn how to deal with the challenges you're facing. And there is hope. I thank you for watching. And I ask that if you are somebody who is suffering like this and you feel hopeless, just know that you can get better. Seek out the psychiatrist that specializes in borderline personality disorder. There are many different therapies available, and they will help you. You can beat it.
So, this one's a good one. Personal disorders, or is it what they are and what you think, or is it demonic possession? This is going to be a good one. First, I'll tell you what I think and my opinions are and the differences. Personality disorders, and then, or is it demonic possession? I'll tell you my opinion in a minute and what the difference is. Demonic possessions, you could tell. Or possessions or malevolence of something there. It's attacking people or attacking that person. You'll know the difference. But there's some cases out there where people have personal issues or they have mental issues and they're schizo or what do they call that? Split personalities. That's a disorder right there where you are 2 different people. Being possessed is a whole different thing. You have something that's controlling you, telling you what to do. You could see the person change, doing things they wouldn't do before in the past, hurting themselves all of a sudden. That could be a sign of depression too, or suicide also. So remember that. There's also signs of that. I forgot. I don't want to be 100% that. I can't forget about that part too. There's just a lot of things you got to look for, especially when you're dealing with that. Or it could be somebody just lying for all you know, just to be famous. There's that part too. Don't forget about that. People lie about a lot of things, especially when it comes to being like that. But we're talking about disorders and what the difference between that and a possession is. A possession is hard because you have to be there a lot to see it. Somebody could tell you something or say it's happening, but you'll see it with your own eyes, especially if it's a possession. Stuff will talk to you. You could see stuff like getting marks on them, getting attacked all the time. And then there's some people who have the disorder where they hurt themselves. And they think they're talking to voices when they're not, and it's demons when it's them. They're just schizophrenic, paranoid all the time, talking to themselves. But you'll know that people just they already have that. If they have they have that. If somebody's just normal and all of a sudden starts doing this weird stuff, pretty sure it's going to be something's messing with them. There's always a chance, so it could be a disorder. It's just there's always a chance it could be that, but you never know. Like if somebody has a history of it, it could be a personal disorder, a physical disorder. It could be mentally disorder, a physically, mentally. You might have some issues that you think something's there and it's not, and something could be telling you, and it could be your mind. It could be just you might be having split personalities. You might be having schizophrenia. You might be thinking there's stuff there when it's not. You might have mental issues. I mean, it's a possibility. You may not have any demons coming after you. You may not have any ghosts or paranormal coming after you. It may be that. You never know, guys. Like, I'm not an expert on this, guys. Like, I know a little bit about the mind like that. I know the difference between the two. I've never really ran into anybody who faked it. I mean, not faked it, that had mental disorders. It's always been something messing with them, a spirit, a demon, an entity, or the place is haunted. I've had people fake stuff like they've been stuff going on, but that's because they were fake. I've never run into anybody who had mental disorders, or if they have, I don't know. I haven't got any proof of it or not. I do know that one of the people we were doing something for admitted later down that they had mental issues and didn't tell us that at first, because that could be something we could be sitting here wasting our time, and it could be something you need to go see a doctor for. You start hearing voices, it's either two things: something's talking to you, or you're losing your mind because you have a mental disorder. Those are the only two things. Or you're doing drugs. That could be the other one. See, a lot of people don't tell you you're doing drugs, and they're doing drugs or something, and they're not telling you. And yeah, of course they're going to see stuff, because certain drugs make you hallucinate, especially LSD, ecstasy, stuff like that, shrooms. You ain't going to see stuff with marijuana and liquor and stuff like that, but you could do it with drugs too. Somebody could be on drugs and just not telling us. See, that's another thing we have to watch out for, and start realizing there's people who lie and don't tell us the truth. So, but that's the difference between that is, you'll know. I've seen people, because of what I do for my job, I've dealt with people that have mental illness or have personal disorders. And one minute they'll be cool with you, the next minute they'll go on a little rant and start saying, I know a guy, he's a homeless guy, he has schizophrenia. He's told me he takes medicine for it. And when he's off his medicine, he starts hearing things and he'll start saying crazy stuff. And I've known him for years. And when he's on his medicine, he doesn't do it. So I know it's the medicine. It may be something else. You never know. But it's pretty sure that's what it is. I've dealt with it not on paranormal cases. I've dealt with it with regular people. And, that's just my opinion. But I haven't dealt with that too much. I've dealt with a lot of paranormal stuff. I've dealt a lot with possessions. I've dealt a lot of people getting attacked. I haven't really dealt with anybody who's had mental disorders. And if they did, we didn't know. I have, and granted, not in a paranormal investigation. On a real life thing, yes, I have. I know the difference. And again, you could tell, like, the guy will talk to me normal, and then he'll go off the handle about crazy stuff he says he hears things, people are talking to him, and he does drugs, and he's not on his meds. So I know he's doing it. Then when he doesn't do drugs and he's med, he's normal. It could be something telling him to do that, though. That's a possibility. See, that no one really knows. They just know that there's something that's wrong. They start hearing voices, but it probably happens either it's hereditary, or something happened. It could be a trauma. You seen something, gone to the war. You could have a real bad if you went to the military and you were in a lot of war and you saw a lot of people dying, it could make you go crazy. Not just that, just from the bombs going off and weapons and gunfire, you can make you shell shocked, make you insane pretty much. Think things are happening when it's not. That's shell shock more. That's more of a fear of that things are, you're PTSD. But people who I think have mental disorders and they're not having a possession or something attacking them, I haven't run into that yet. I know it exists, and I know people have dealt with it. I mean, I know The Conjuring, one of the stories, I know that one of the girls, they said was either faking it or she was possessed. That's what they think. But then some people said she had a mental disorder. She had split personalities, and she was a schizophrenic. And that could be a possibility. See, that's always going to be an argument. There's some people who don't believe that. They believe it's just demons pretending to make them hear all these voices, and it's really demonic, and it's not. Some people have mental issues. I don't believe that. I don't believe it's always with demons and always demonic. It's always this. And you know what? Some people I've met have schizophrenia. Don't think that they're not bad people. They just have to be on medicine, Prozac, stuff like that, to keep somewhat normal. I don't think anybody's normal, but you know what I mean. Keep from losing their mind. And some people just don't do it, so they go back into their mind frame of everybody's after them, or they hear things, or they're seeing things, what's not there. And that's real. I've met people like that, but not in an investigation. So that's why I said I can't really speak for the investigation side. That's what I'm trying to go by. Now, if you guys understand, if you guys understand more, that's what I'm trying to explain. And if it's drugs, it's a whole different story. You'll know. You'll see the side effects of drugs. They get skinnier. You see it in their eyes, cuts, stuff like that. So, but remember, drugs can make you see things are not there either. Also can keep you vulnerable too to some, keeping yourself open to stuff, because you're opening your mind with a lot of drugs. Something can always jump in. It doesn't necessarily have to be fake or crazy. Something can attach to you that way because you're opening yourself and you're opening your mind, especially if you travel and you have certain gifts. Empaths, people who can read certain things, read people. I don't, like, I'm not an expert on this, guys. This is, I know a little bit about it, about the, certain things about it, but I know the differences. When I've seen somebody possessed, I know what's there, and I've seen it. You could see stuff happening in front of you. They're getting scratched, they're tormented, there's marks, you can hear noises, there's stuff attacking them, attacks. When it's somebody else, you'll know, because they'll usually cut their arms and try to say you could tell the difference. We'll just put it that way. But there's some people who are so damn good at it, you don't know. They're masterminds, but they're insane. So they know what they're doing, and that's what's crazy, but they're insane. And they could make you believe that they really are having attacked and they might be faking it. And that's so crazy. I'm not going to say that I've never met anybody like that. I have, but not with paranormal yet. I know one day I'm going to run into this, and then we can talk about it then with what I would do. That's just my opinion. I don't know too much about like disorders. I know what to look for, because I do a lot of stuff with security, so I know that part of it. I know the differences. Schizophrenia is different. Like, you think people are after you. You think that there's people talking to you. You can tell, and then they'll go to normal. So I don't think that's a possession. I think people want to use that so they can say, possession. But I don't believe it. I don't think everything's evil, dude. I'm sorry. I don't ever believe that. I think that's a religious thing, and I'm not making fun of anybody's beliefs. Trust me on that. So I want you guys to understand that. I'm not attacking you anyway. You believe whatever you want. But that's just my opinion. I don't know too much on this subject. I know a little bit. I'm not an expert. James knows a little more about this. But it's a great series we're going to be doing, and I enjoy it. So that being said, there you go, James. That's my opinion and what I've dealt with and what I've seen. And like I said, I tried to explain it. I might have not, because I'm not the best explaining stuff like this. You'll know the difference, hopefully. Unless you're very acceptable and gullible. I'm sorry, there's a lot of people out there who are, and they believe anything. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, they're just going to believe it. So that, you guys kind of can go with this as what to look for. Just so you know, I've dealt with it in two different aspects, not with the paranormal guys. I deal with it because I work in, I'm an armed guard at a bank. I'm not going to say the bank, but I see a lot of the homeless, and I deal with a lot of schizophrenia and people who are on drugs. And that's how I know that part of it. I know the difference. But now with paranormal, I've never had that issue. So that's where I'm going from and what I've read on it and stuff like that. So I'm just reassuring people know what I'm talking about. I just wanted to refresh that. I hope you guys have a good night. And there you go, James. I love you guys. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We're doing something different this time. I really enjoyed doing it. It's kind of weird, guys. What do you guys think? What is your opinions? Leave your comments. Like we always want to hear from you guys. Thank you for following us on Parax Radio every Sunday nights. 9 Pacific, 12 Eastern. And Tuesday nights, the Best Of Show, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. You guys want to follow us? Subscribe to James Hershey's YouTube page. Subscribe. I hope you guys are having a good night. It's April now, guys, a new month. And I'm hoping everybody's enjoying and being safe. It's springtime now, guys. So have a good night, misfits, sugar ladies, monster lovers, demon hunters. I love you and blessed be, and have a great night. We love you.
So that being said, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us again. Thank you for all the support and love that you've given us. If you're listening on the radio, please go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all that jazz, and check out the channel, man. There's tons of stuff there for you. There's like 1,000 or more videos there. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Thank you for spending time. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that, and check us out every week, man. We put these up every week. You know, we've got 200 and almost 300 episodes of Staring Up. We've got a bunch of tales, paranormal news, all kinds of stuff on there for you. Thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I'll catch you on the next one. Till we speak to you again. Love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you. And so do we. Bye-bye.